Hi, I'm Jason Gore for ThatShelf.com, and we're here to look at the Beatles on vinyl, the red and the blue records.
Big shelf.
So, in my own music education, these records were extremely important. I had them on cassette. It's one of the few things I actually had on cassette. I've weirdly never owned the vinyl. Um, and I listened to the hell out of these sort of before high school. These really were my introduction to the Beatles. I've said this before. My introduction was absolutely Star Sum 45 and their covers. And so then these compilations were extremely valuable for me for actually getting a sense of the scope of the Beatles, everything from the earliest stuff. I knew that I was a blue rather than a red guy, and I sort of, in a funny way, that made me give some short shrift to some of the stuff, some of the later stuff on red, which absolutely is up my alley. But the blue compilation, the sort of older Beatles, newer Beatles. It just seemed like a really nice way of delineating that one band could go through these sort of epochs. And what was ridiculous is 62 to 66 and then 67 to 70. These are not like 15, 25 years apart. It's like so much was happening in such a short period of time. Music was changing so dramatically. I never really, contemplated about how a relatively short period of time, because of course I was much younger and a year felt so much longer. One of the funny things about getting old. Now, these were originally assembled by George Martin, did his own, made interesting choices, shall we say, and these versions are interesting for a couple of reasons. One, they've been expanded to include a bunch of tracks not on the original red and blue. Second of all, the blue one obviously includes the new song that everyone's super excited about. But more importantly, the red is our first taste of the new mixes, the new using AI technology and other technologies to actually extract embedded mixes, so mixes that have already been completed, and then you can sort of strip out individual stems, individual instruments, remix them, and then go through it that way. I've heard a little bit on the digital streaming, the higher res digital streaming. I'm looking forward to digging into vinyl, but I just wanted to do sort of a look at these. These are the black versions that I'm going to be diving into. But as I said, these were my introduction to the Beatles. And funny enough, the way they stand out so much for me is I just thought that this was all the Beatles were. And it wasn't until the CDs came out, right in '86, right when I just started high school, that I actually then listened to the records. And what I would hear is I'd hear a song I know and a whole bunch of stuff I didn't know, and then a new song, and then a song that was not on here that I just adored. And truly, that's when I became, at the time, I mean, the previous video, just a couple weeks ago, months ago at least, K-Tel was my main way of doing it. I was just listening to singles. And it is not lost on me that that's the way the vast majority of people listen to music now. They just go to some playlist or whatever, give me a bunch of stuff, and they're listening to singles out of context of anything that resembles an album. And really, that's the way that these sort of works. These obviously are a single compilation, but nonetheless, these sort of extract from the record these particular songs, many of them themselves singles that weren't always on the album. Now, I became an album guy because of the Beatles, that I realized that the context mattered, that the flow, the sequencing, all of that stuff. So what's interesting here is that my sort of definitive greatest hits compilation, this, in many ways, has now itself had its sequencing messed about with a little bit. The mixings has been changed and all that stuff. But I do want to, let's crack it open and see what it says. The classic compilation expanded with 12 extra tracks and featuring many new mixes. 3 LP now instead of a 2 LP, featuring 38 tracks. And this is the half-speed master. The whole thing with Abbey Road is that they actually obviously go from digital files for half speed, which again is fine. What's unfortunate about this, and I've seen sort of evidence to it, is that the mastering on these is very compressed. And I don't mean compressed like an MP3 is compressed. I mean when you actually run through a compressor, which makes all the quiet stuff loud and all the loud stuff a little bit more quiet, so everything's sort of uniform. If you look at the WAV file, instead of dynamic range, instead of going quiet, and then much louder and then quiet, everything is pretty much all the same, and whether it's quiet or not quiet, it sort of gets crunched down the way, like it does on radio. That is the way that most, let's say, streaming services do it, but it's unfortunate, to my understanding, that the vinyl does the same. Still, I'll get a chance to listen. Nice little sticker, which will be kept, of course. And then the album itself is a straight up, it's a 3-record set that is a regular gatefold. It's not a trifold. So inside this, we have the sort of front and back with that photo, which unsurprisingly is the same as this. So if you want to play that game, and then when you do this, you do this. So you can still do the sort of before and after of these publicity photos. Was it Capitol building? I forget where that actual building was shot. I don't think it's Capitol because I think it's shot in the UK. Regardless, you then have this as the inner gatefold. And yeah, you have a slew of some of the greatest records ever made. Love Me Do, Please Please Me, From Me to You, She Loves You, I Want to Hold Your Hand, All My Love, and Can't Buy Me Love. That's side one. That's pretty good. Hard Day's Night, and I Love Her, 8 Days a Week, I Feel Fine, Ticket to Ride Yesterday. Help, You've Got to Hide Your Love Away, We Can Work It Out, Day Trip, or Drive My Car, Norwegian Wood. Nowhere Man, Michelle, In My Life, Girl, Paperback Writer, Eleanor Rigby, Yellow Submarine. I saw her standing there, twist and shout, This Boy, Roll Over Beethoven, Really Got a Hold of Me. You Can't Do That, and then side 6, If I Needed Someone, Got to Get You in My Life, I'm Only Sleeping, Taxman, Here, There, and Everywhere, and Tomorrow Never Knows. So we're going basically from the beginning up to Revolver is essentially how it is. And again, many of these mixes, especially from the even earlier ones, are stuff that we haven't yet heard. They're from like Rubber Soul and earlier. Here's an information sheet that you get with it, and the records themselves come in paper sleeves, not polylined. Frustrating. But if we pull it out, let's see what the actual record itself looks like. It's on Red Apple, unsurprising. And the record itself, it looks pretty decent. There's some paper on it. It will be cleaned. And as usual, you have the apple and then the sliced apple, the core. Same thing in here. We have lyrics for them all. Very much looking like Sgt. Pepper. Which is one of the, if not the first major release to actually include the liner lyrics for them. So that is our look at the red version. Now let's dig into the blue, which actually has something, as I said, much more pretty fascinating. The Beatles, a classic compilation expanded with 9 extra tracks, including the single Now and Then, which is the last of the Beatles track. Many, many ways of discovering it about what the song's really about. But even before you listen to it, if you haven't listened to it yet, if you're one of them, watch the making of video, the 12-minute sort of mini doc, because it's fabulous. In some ways, it's better than the song. It is a really beautiful articulation of what transpired for them actually putting together. Beautifully restored footage from the anthology sessions, etc., etc. Front, back, as discussed, and on the inside, boom, right? Image. You can see how they all sort of pretty much fit together. What do we got here? Strawberry Fields Forever, Penny Lane, Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, With a Little Help, My Friends, Lucian Sky with Diamonds, Day in the Life, All You Need Is Love. Like side ones, obviously, Sgt. Peppery. I'm the Walrus, Hello Goodbye, Fool on the Hill, Magical Mystery Tour, Lady Madonna, Hey Jude, Revolution. So Hey Jude and Revolution, the single versions on here. Not available on a specific record, so unless you have the box set, the past master set, it's a pretty good way of actually getting some of this stuff. Back in the USSR, While My Guitar Gently Weeps, Obla Di Obla Da, Get Back, Don't Let Me Down, Battle of John and Yoko Ono. Sorry, Battle of John and Yoko, and Old Brown Shoe. Then Here Comes the Sun, God Bless the Moog. Come Together, Something, Octopus's Garden, Let It Be, Across the Universe, Long and Winding Road. Side 5 is Now and Then, which is the new single. Interesting. And Side 5, I just assumed to be the last track. But it's the first track of Side 5, followed by Blackbird, Dear Prudence, Glass Onion, Within You, and Within You, Without You. I always want to put an and in the middle there. Side 6, one of my favorite tracks of theirs, as ridiculous as it is, from Yellow Submarine, Hail Bulldog, followed by Oh Darling, I Mean Mine, and I Want You, She's So Heavy. Some of the final Abbey Road things. So only 4 tracks on Side 6. So yeah, no, this is interesting. So this is the Saint Pancras Old Church, London, in July 1968, and then this is the exact same image, same photo with the kid. Right? Is it the same? Yep, same with the kid. So inner, the same. Yeah. Crack it open. Another song sheet that actually does it. Gives you a bit of a spiel. Paper-lined sleeves in blue. And, shockingly, the label itself. So you know which one's which. Number 1 and number 2. And then do the same thing for the other records, excuse me, because of course it's a 3-record set. Right. The record itself, again, looks pretty much spotless. Very, very clean. Pressing looks okay. It looks flat. I don't see anything egregious about it. It's what one would hope. We'll see how they actually sound. Again, these mixes I'm much more familiar with because I have the other sets that they come from. These have obviously been restored at the time. But yeah, there's our look, our very quick look. I'm going to have a listen to these and dig in them and listen to the Beatles in a way that I haven't in a long time, as these sort of greatest hitsy sort of playlisty way of doing it. Checking it now and then on my system, and we'll go from there. That is our quick look at the Beatles, 1962 to 66. Boom. And 1967 to 1970, the red and the blue records. Very, very, very important for music history. Very, very important for my own music history. And I'm really grateful to be able to add these to my collection. I have so much of the Beatles on vinyl now and very different iterations, but it'll be interesting to see how this works and contrasts in some ways with some of the other things that I have. The BC-13 box, the original stereo box, the mono box, etc., etc., etc. For thatshelf.com, I'm Jason Gorber. Thank you so much for watching. Please follow us on social media. Leave a comment. Let me know what you think about this particular release. And go to thatshelf.com. It'll really help us out a lot for you to support our writers there. We will see you next video. All the best. Take care.